Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hi, beloved friends. Happy New Year to each and everybody. In the beginning of the first week of the new year, where we can look at ourselves and look at this year that's lying ahead, so that we can look at what we need to change ourselves and what we need to still um, work on ourselves and to how we can serve more and how we can focus on the good, on the joy, on the love, on the peace, on patience, and everything that we started the new year with. Today, again, beloved friends, we're going to do a wonderful piece out of Living Spring, chapter 72, and it's by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. And if we think about Living Spring is spring water coming from the earth that is refreshing and clean for us to drink. And today I want us to focus on this visualization of this spring water. And today the piece will be from Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 9 verses 22. And while we listen to this, let's visualize Apostle Paul, which is one of also a great example of that. Doesn't matter where he came from. When he heard Jesus, he changed his whole life. And he always said that he left his past behind. He forgave himself because he was ignorant and he didn't understand. But as soon as he did understand, he heard Jesus' voice, he understood and he worked diligently in spreading the gospel of Jesus. So today, let's think about that. Let's leave the past and last year behind us, and let's focus, like Apostle Paul, while he's talking to us and Emmanuel's explaining this verse of Apostle Paul to us. Let's open ourselves up like the spring, washing ourselves clean. The chapter is Incomprehension, which means that something that is not quite understood. I've made myself weak to the weak in order to win the weak. I have become all things to all men, so that by any means possible I might save some. And Emmanuel is explaining, arguably, incomprehension is like darkness in the presence of light. However, if the call of the light surrounds and resounds within your soul, go forward and fight the darkness in the smallest recess of your pathway. Nevertheless, do not forget the law of resistance and keep its principles in mind before acting. To lower oneself in order to help others is the divine art of those who have consciously reached for a loftier life. The glaring light causes blindness. If the star of love and wisdom shines in your heart, do not humiliate those who are still lost in the fog of ignorance and evil. Gradate your manifestations so that your assistance does not become destructive. If the rain were to constantly flood the desert under the pretext of quenching its thirst, and if the sun were so mercilessly beat down on the lake to dry its moist clay, we would never have a climate suitable for life's needs. Do not make yourself too superior to those beneath you, or too strong to those who are weak. Not all the students of a school graduate all at once, just a few do each year. Every privilege demands not only responsibility, but also a sense of proportion. Keep the constructive energy of the respectable example, but do not forget that the skill of teaching can only be completely successful if the teacher knows how to support, wait, and repeat. Therefore, do not complain about incomprehension by using uneasiness and um, disenchantment, harshness, and bitterness on an endeavor of solution and rectification. There is heavenly merit for those who descend into the swamp without becoming contaminated. A ball of matter gets covered with mud when thrown into the muddy pit; nevertheless, the ray of light shines within the abyss and then returns unchanged. What would have become of us if Jesus had not dimmed his own brightness to make himself weak like us, so that we could witness his redemptive mission? Like him, let us learn to lower ourselves, helping others without causing damage to ourselves. To do so, we cannot forget the expressive statement of Paul of Tarsus when he affirms that for the victory of the good he made himself weak to the weak. Excuse me. And by any means possible, he became everything to everyone in order to uplift a few. Emmanuel has quite decently explained what Paul meant in saying that he made himself weak for the weak, and he made himself in order for them to save some of them. So I think that it, Emmanuel is reminding us that Jesus is our great master is the great example for us to realize how much he had to let go of all his knowledge, of all the things that he is, his greatness, in order to live amongst us. If we think about and we know about him, is that he he went to live with the fishermen. He slept with them, he caught fish with them. He was a very simple and humble human. And if you think what Paul says, it's the same thing, is that we need to humble ourselves, not to um, get full of mud and to get upset when we are amongst those who are still learning, but to be like the light that is amongst all these things and still keeping our race strong. And beloved friends, if we look around us, we know that there is plenty of things going on in the world. But it's for us to rather praise for that and not to get into this discussion of um, bad things happening and getting sucked into all this, but to look at it out of a point of view of like in a higher way, so that we can understand that we are here to serve, and if we are to be the light, we truly need to focus on our thoughts when we go through social media, when we talk to each other, when someone is maybe telling you something. What are our deepest subconscious thoughts? And it's a good thing to, in the new year, take a journal and write down your thoughts. during the day to, to, to get an idea of what your constant thought pattern is like so that we can work on our thought patterns. What is our reactions to certain things so that we can look at it and especially when we write it down, there's just something about journaling or writing things down so that we can go back to it and look at it and maybe write an affirmation to help us or a visualization so that we can change that and or even a prayer so that we can change these patterns of that is in our thought process so that we can change that into a positive thing so that we can assist so that we are not drawn into these things but so that we can be the workers, the service, the disciples of Jesus so that we can be the light for those. If they know it or not, prayer is always, there's always full prayers that we can give to people. And if we develop this way of thinking to always assist and not judge and um, to don't throw stones, but to know that everyone is on a different level of evolution. And if it's the will of God to put them in certain circumstances, and God gave every one of us our free will, who are we to judge? But in the same sense that we should always try to get something good, to plant a good seed where we are. And the biggest seed that we can plant, the best seed that we can plant is through our own example. If we put this seed, this example of ourselves in the light, in the patience, in spreading hope, to encourage, to assist, to serve in all circumstances without any judgment, that will be the biggest present that we can give to anyone. And like we did in the beginning of the year, like with patience, that Alan Kardec says that if we have patience with everything and everyone around us, that we understand that everyone in its own right, in its own pace, will evolve because we know that the end for every soul is to be a perfect soul. So if we know that and we are certain about that, because we know that everyone goes through their own things so that they can be cleansed of their own things that we need to change. So to understand that is to know that we should love unconditionally, to have always to practice patience with ourselves and with everyone and everything around us. And it's a daily practice. It's a daily thing to remind ourselves. And it's good to do great affirmations in the morning so that we can remind ourselves to focus on the good, like Emmanuel. And we always talk about this, but what Emmanuel is telling us in Fallen Life, to focus on the good, more of the good, see what we can change, how we can change something or a situation into something great, in something positive, in a loving way, in kindness, and maybe in a way of service. Thank you so much for joining me today, beloved friends. Happy New Year. May God inspire each and every one of us to focus our minds on higher thoughts so that we can educate ourselves, learn, and even serve more in this coming year. Thank you so much. God bless. Until next time. Thank you. Bye bye.